What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Frankie Bones, and in today's video, going to be doing a recap of the Yankees Orioles series at the beginning of this week. Obviously, we had the Monday off, and to keep it short with you guys, I'm pretty disappointed. And we're going to hop into some of the results that we had, some key takeaways from this past series, some injury news as we look forward, as well as the next few series that we have coming up. If you guys enjoyed this video, please feel free to drop a like, subscribe if you're new for more Yankees content coming in the future, including series recaps, news, all that good jazz, and I very much appreciate it. So with that, we'll hop right into the series recap. Starting off on Tuesday, again an off day on Monday. In the first game, the Yankees take care of business. They win this game 6-5. Garrett Cole starts this game. He actually does not have his best game overall. He actually allows 4 earned runs in this game. Stuff really didn't look spectacular, although the Orioles have looked pretty good overall. But on the back of his start, the Yankees end up making a comeback, down 4 runs here in this game. They have a home run to help along the way, but they end up bringing this game back through the use of small ball to tie it up at 4. In the bottom of the ninth, Aaron Judge, as I am drinking the All Rise beer, comes back and hits a game-tying home run in the ninth inning off of their closer. Pretty epic shot from him, and the Yankees go on to win this game on the back of an Anthony Volpe sacrifice fly in the bottom of the 10th inning. Moving on to game number 2. This game was played on Wednesday night. The Orioles end up taking this one by a score of 9-6. And this was a really tough one to swallow. Nestor ended up pitching a really good 6 innings, and they end up trotting him out for the 7th. Makes a ton of sense on a low pitch count, but just sort of a collapse for this Yankees team, and it's sort of the first time we've seen this overall from the bullpen in particular. And it was Jimmy Cordero that was sort of the bandit here in this game. The Yankees collapse in the 7th inning. They allow 8 runs. Pretty difficult there for us. And it turns around quick. The Yankees have bases loaded with 1 out, I believe. Anthony Rizzo ends up flaring one out to left field for a single. Ends up scoring 1, but outside of that, the Yankees are not able to recover from this damage. Really a great opportunity for them to capitalize, and they just weren't able to get it done, which is really unfortunate. And like I mentioned before, this is kind of the first time we've seen the bullpen collapse. Jimmy Cordero has been a good staple for this bullpen, and I feel like he's been a good surprise piece for this team as we continue to get guys back, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But again, a little disappointing, but we dropped this game 9-6. A good opportunity for the Yankees to go up 2-0 in this series, solidify the series win, and especially knowing that Clarke Schmidt coming up in Game 3 would have been a really good one to have, especially after Nestor pitches a good 6, allowing 1 earned through 6, and then sort of falling off at that point. Moving on to the rubber match in the series, which just happened tonight. I'm recording this Thursday night late. However, the Orioles end up taking this game by a score of 3-1, and it was sort of a close one throughout. Clarke Schmidt gave us a pretty decent 5, and yeah, there was a little bit of trouble, but he was able to help us work through, and really until the very end, the Yankees were really in this ball game. I'd say they were in it till the end, but at the end of the day, Wandy has a little bit of trouble. They end up bringing in Clay in the top of the 8th, and he leaves that thing up. He leaves that sinker up. It ends up getting mashed to right field. It hits off the top corner of the wall. A little bit of a debate whether it was a home run or a double. Obviously a double. It did not go out, but 2 runs end up scoring on that to make it 3-0. And the Yankees end up scoring 1 in the bottom of the 9th, thanks to Big Willie Calhoun with the double, scoring Judge. But the offense really just looked flat in this game, only 3 hits, and just kind of an uncharacteristic team. Something we have not really seen from this squad over the past, say, 2 weeks or so. Really looked pretty good overall. And, just sort of like I said, an uncharacteristic game from this team. And, I'm really hoping that this is something that we will not expect from the squad moving forward. Been on a great run, rather. Won 5 straight before dropping these last 2. And you'd argue that we really should have won on Wednesday. It was really a big win. Not sure if that really chalked the team, but we'll talk a little bit about how this will carry over into our next series a little bit later on in the video. Talking about some of our key takeaways, the first one I'll talk about is that the Yankees need to continue to manufacture runs without the long ball. Obviously, it's a formula that a lot of teams will have against the Yankees, sort of limiting the damage due to the long ball. We have a lot of power hitters, and especially as guys come back, Stanton, Rizzo, and Judge in particular are going to be the focal point of this team in terms of limiting the massive damage by way of the long ball. And throughout this series, I feel like we did a pretty good job, but it was pretty evident in the third game. Talk a little bit about it later in one of the other keys, but I feel like we just have to continue to manufacture runs. And that's everything from stealing bases. I feel like we've gotten a little bit away from that. Getting on base and just giving your team an opportunity, especially a team that loves to hit home runs. Really just have to get guys on base, and that gives you a great opportunity to score one, if not multiple runs when the opportunity is right. The second thing that we're going to talk about is, will Gleyber Torres remain at the top of the lineup? So, pretty interesting note here. He has led off in the last 5 games. We've seen Anthony Volpe up there. We've seen DJ up there for years. And, it's a pretty valid question. Who are we going to see up at the top of the lineup? Because it's very important, especially as a baseball junkie, to understand how to stack your lineup, how to set up your lineup for success. Having a guy that gets on base is incredibly important at the top, whether you want to have Rizzo at 2, whether you want to have Aaron Judge at 2. These are the guys that are going to come up time and time again and get the most at-bats on your team. So, pretty interesting to see him up there. His slugging has been up a little bit, and he's played well of recent, but just pretty interesting to see him up there at number 1. A lot of times we see him even in the 4 spot, 4 or 5. And, I'd say it was overall a pretty good success. I think he played well. I think he just needs to continue to improve his on-base percentage, improve his walk percentage, knowing the guys behind him, and just continue to put this team in great opportunities. But just wanted to bring up this point as he started in the leadoff spot over the last 5 games. The next thing that we're going to talk about is, something that's obviously day in, day out, but just sort of inexcusable to not score runs at home. Might hit a little bit home from this last game, only having 3 hits. A little bit of a rout tonight, but it's really just inexcusable. And especially in a ballpark like Yankee Stadium, we need to be taking our walks. We need to be stealing bases. We have guys that are more than capable of stealing bags, put the team in good positions to be able to score runs, especially with the chance of the long ball at home. And, in a game like tonight, it showed. We only had 3 hits, and sometimes, those 3 hits end up as 5 hits and 5 runs, which can be really important for this team, but overall just sort of didn't really have the sense that our team was in this game. Even until the 9th inning, obviously Aaron Judge scored on that Willie Calhoun double, but just tough to see this team go down relatively without a fight. I think we need to do a better job of just getting on base. Again, like I said, manufacturing runs sort of in that first place and having the ability to put up runs. We have one of the best bullpens in baseball. Again, they sort of had a blow-up game in the game prior, but it happens. And at the end of the day, just need to be able to bounce back from that and put your team in a position to win. And when you get 3 hits and 1 run, you really don't allow them to do that against a really subpar pitcher. And talking about our last key takeaway, something that I've noticed throughout the season and over the past few seasons, sort of talking about being able to capitalize, the Yankees really continue to struggle with sinker ball pitchers. And tonight we face Kyle Gibson, and he really just was nothing spectacular. At the end of the day, it was just stuff that would sort of get you out. And I feel like we sort of just rolled over it. And yeah, I can understand it's a little bit of a difficult task. Obviously, a lot of stuff works down, but there were just a ton of groundouts today. And it's important at that point. Obviously, the sinker ball and the changeup look pretty similar, but you got to stay disciplined. I mean, this is a guy that has been around the league a long time. A lot of guys have a decent amount of at-bats against him, and got to be able to capitalize. And it's kind of an interesting note because a lot of guys in the bullpen are developing this pitch, and a lot of people will go from, whether it be a sinker or a splitter to the changeup, a curveball, slider, fastball combination, and it's really not great. And obviously the Yankees want to mash and they want to hit, but the reality is we have to key in on some of these guys, and we just continue to roll over and over and over. We did have some guys on at some points throughout the night, and we just really weren't able to capitalize. So just a trend that I've seen over the past couple of series, and it'll be interesting to see if we adjust from this, because it's really a pretty common trend throughout the Major League Baseball, and we're going to need to adapt because a lot of those high leverage guys have some really great movement stuff, whether it be a two-seam, sinker, splitter, especially look at a guy like Shohei Ohtani, absolute wipeout stuff, but need to be able to adapt. I get the pitches are filthy, but it's absolutely no excuse. Just no offense tonight from the team. Moving on to some injury news quickly. Not too many updates here, so we'll run through it pretty quick. Carlos Rodon, he obviously rejoined the team in New York on this most recent stand. Still pretty healthy, no sort of issues in terms of throwing. Obviously, he has yet to throw off of a mound, but the reality is we are hoping to get him into a throwing program soon. And once that starts, I'd say it's about a month-long time frame in terms of when we will get him back. He'll have to do rehabs and strengthen himself out and lengthen himself out, strengthen and lengthen, but it'll be about a month from that time when he starts to get going. So again, excited for that news as we continue to struggle through some of these starts. Next, we'll talk about a little bit of a twofold update. So we'll talk about Josh Donaldson and Tommy Kahnle. They're both on rehab starts in Scranton earlier on today. So both these guys are working back. Tommy Kahnle has been out since the beginning of the year. It would be a nice piece to have back. A nice fastball power changeup combination to add to the back of the bullpen that's already proven to be pretty solid to this point so far. Would love to have him back. And also Josh Donaldson. Wouldn't say I'd love to have him back. He cut his hand making a dresser or something from IKEA. So not sure exactly a time frame on them, but obviously if they're making AAA rehab starts, it might come maybe towards the end of next week. So more roster changes may end up happening. Guys like Willie Calhoun still on the team. Obviously Ben Rorvit at this point with Jose still on the IL, he will stay. But a guy like Jake Bauers, pretty interesting to see how this roster sort of shakes up over the next 2-3 weeks as guys come back. And the last guy we'll talk about, Giancarlo Stanton. He's likely to be on a rehab assignment early next week. We saw him taking bullpen over the past Saw him taking BP over the past few days at the stadium, and he looks pretty good. And I don't want to cross my fingers. I'm going to have to, but again, he looks pretty good. And a part of his rehab assignment will be playing the outfield. Again, the Yankees feel pretty strongly that the injury did not result from playing the outfield. I personally, as well as him, as in Giancarlo, feel like that he is more impactful when he plays the outfield, more involved in the game, and I think it's a big step in terms of working him back. So have to keep you guys updated with probably the next series recap with some more news on those 4 guys. We're pretty excited to see where we stand over the next few days. And finally, to wrap up this video, we'll look ahead at some of the next few series that we have coming up here for the Bronx Bombers. So, obviously, in the immediate, we'll talk about the 3-game set that we have at home, hosting the San Diego Padres, a team that has been struggling as of late. They won today, but very high potent offense and nobody to be taken lightly. We did end up finding out that we have Sevy pushed back to Saturday. We are going to be calling up a pitcher as well on Friday to be able to sort of alleviate that gap. We do have Domingo Germán coming back from his suspension, so he'll be pitching on Monday. We pushed back Garrett Cole to Sunday, so we'll have him for the rubber match in this series, but Friday will be an important one. Obviously, we have dropped the last 2 over the last few days, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of exactly happens over these next 3 games. I think that we definitely need a series win over the next 3, and I think it's pretty clear that this team needs a little bit of a bounce back, because in many ways, I think that this team needs to continue to have their momentum. Up until this series, I feel like the Yankees really had their feet underneath them, but sort of hard to tell after a game like this. Obviously, the Yankees came out pretty flat in this game, and when that happens, obviously sometimes you have to just sort of chalk it up. Obviously, the Yankees did not really play too well. Had a couple of errors over at first base. Rizzo going to the pitchers, so maybe we need a little PFP going into the weekend, but at the end of the day, what can you say? Obviously, a 3-1 loss. You need to be able to put up more than 3 runs, especially with Joe Torre in the stands. You really need to be able to put on a little bit of a show. So, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What your key takeaways were from this series, what you guys think of this lineup moving forward, and overall how we're going to fare over these next few series. But for now, that's going to do it for me, guys. This has been your boy Frankie Bones, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace out.